In this lesson, we'll review the features of SuccessWare for processing credit card and ACH transactions. Using the OpenEdge, or formerly XCharge integration, you can store a card on file for a customer without having to store any credit card information in SuccessWare. You'll be able to process payments by credit card or, if you sign up with XCheck, ACH transactions. You'll be able to process voids, cancellations, or refunds directly from SuccessWare 21. You'll be able to pre-authorize credit cards, as well as charge those authorizations and release pre-authorizations. You'll be able to process recurring payments for customer agreements, and even set up recurring payments for agreements that process offline automatically on a date that you choose. And finally, you'll be able to import your daily credit card batch statements into your undeposited funds reconciliation. A useful feature of the XCharge integration with SuccessWare is an ability to capture a credit card as a part of a customer's account. This can be done from a number of different forms, but in this case, we're going to do so from the customer's billing account. I'm going to open the billing account from their record, hit Edit, and in the Payment Method area, I'm going to be able to capture the credit card information to store on the account and use for future transactions. I'm going to hit the drop-down and select the card type that I'm capturing. In this case, it'll be a MasterCard. And I'm going to hit the button here that's going to open the secure processing window. Click Continue, and enter the card information. Once you've entered the card information, click Submit. An alias is created. Click Continue, and that card is stored on file for the customer's account. I'm going to close the form, and I now have this available here in any job that I create or agreement or any other transaction that I process against this customer. That card on file is going to be available for me to select. All of this card data is stored with OpenEdge or XCharge. All we're storing is an alias to submit back. With an alias captured on a customer's account, you can use that captured card to process a payment transaction. I'm going to open the account to which we added the alias and open their billing account. I'm going to record a payment transaction which I'll apply to an invoice at a later point. But I'd like to just show you that we can enter an amount. The card has already been captured, so it's here on the account. All we'll have to do is click the Payment Processing button, click Continue, and then process the transaction. Post. And we have nothing to allocate against, so I'm just going to post without allocation. And we have that credit balance on the account now, but that charge has been made directly to that card on file. The XCharge payment processing window can be used to process payments directly from an invoice. To do so, complete your invoice and click the Apply Payment button at the bottom of the screen. We'll enter the amount of the payment and then the method. In this case, we'll grab Visa as the card that was given to us by the customer. Now, to process the transaction, we're going to click this little credit card button to open the secure processing window. Click Continue, and now enter the card information. Your expiration date, and then Submit. This is going to capture an alias for the card. We'll click Continue, and from here, we'll process the payment. Payment ready for processing, click Continue, and process now through XCharge. The payment approval displays for us. We can close, and the payment information is here. Now it's grayed out because the payment has already been processed. We're going to close, and then we can post the invoice at that point. In addition to being able to process credit card payments directly through SuccessWare, if you have set yourself up with XCharge, with an XCheck account, you will be able to process ACH transactions. Now, if you need more information about that, you can reach out to your XCharge rep directly and they can get you set up. But once you've got that ACH functionality enabled, you'll be able to take a payment via ACH as you do with credit cards. In this example, I'm going to take a payment directly through a customer's billing account, but we could do this through the Apply Payment button on the invoice, and agreements can be set up with ACH transactions as well. I'm going to click Receipt. My amount of the payment is there. And in my drop-down for payment methods, I'm going to choose ACH. Now, what you actually call the payment method is immaterial. Just understand that the payment method must link to a payment type of funds transfer. That tells the system that this is going to be an ACH transaction. So I'm going to pick ACH again. Now, when I tab out of this field, what I'm going to get is an account number and a routing number field. So in a normal situation with credit card, we go into the XCharge payment window, we enter the credit card information there. Here, what we're going to do is enter the account number and the routing number in the cash receipt form. Then we're going to enter the payment processing window. My account number, again, I'm getting this from the customer, and my routing number. Entered. I'm going to click on my payment processing window. It tells me it's ready for processing. We're going to click Continue. We're going to process through XCharge with the routing number and the bank account number entered, and we're going to choose Process. In this case, my payment has come back approved. I'll be able to close the window and then post my transaction. And that's it. There may be times when you discover that a credit card transaction has been processed in error. If that's the case, the integration between SuccessWare 21 and OpenEdge or XCharge allows for the voiding or canceling of a transaction. A void happens before the batch has completed. So basically, if you discover the mistake same day, the cancel option will occur after the monies have become part of the upcoming batch. The cancel has the same effect as basically refunding the money to the customer's account, but there's no audit trail that shows on the customer's account, rather just a reverse transaction. To cancel or void the transaction, we're going to go to the same screen where we posted it. So I'm going to adjust my invoice, and I'm going to go back to the Apply Payment window. Now in this case, I took a credit card and applied it to the wrong invoice or to the wrong customer's account. I'm going to click Clear Payment. The system recognizes that this is a processed payment, and it offers to void or cancel for me. I'm going to click Yes, and the payment is reversed. At this point, I can record different payment information, or I can close the window and post the invoice without a payment at all. There will be times when you attempt to process a transaction and the processed transaction declines. Let's take a look at an example. In this case, I've already completed my invoice and I'm going to apply the payment. We have no card on file, so we're going to record the information in real time. Again, I'm going to click the Payment Processing button and click Continue and enter my card information. Enter my expiration date and submit. So I've successfully created an alias for the credit card. Now I'm going to try to process the transaction. Again, I'm going to click Continue and attempt to process. And in this case, my transaction failed. I get a decline payment note here that tells me that the transaction's been declined with the response code, and it gives me an option. It asks if I'd like to clear the payment information or try and process the card later. If I choose later, the payment information will remain on the customer's account as an alias, and I'll be able to attempt the transaction perhaps tomorrow. Or I can choose to clear. In doing so, the payment form is cleared, and now I can take a different payment method or post the invoice without a payment. There may be situations where a refund to a credit card makes more sense than a simple cancel. In this situation, I'd like that refund to actually show up as a transaction on the customer's account, not merely reverse the payment that I've already received. Now, one option is to select the open invoice, create a credit memo, and at the end of the credit memo process, we'll be offered the opportunity to process the refund. In this case, I'm actually going to process the refund directly. I'm going to hit the refund button. Now, credit card refunds are going to post against our undeposited funds account the same way that a charge to a credit card would appear there. So I'm going to change my register account to undeposited funds. I'm going to enter the amount of the refund, in this case $144. And in the payment method dropdown, the alias that was captured for the customer appears. We're going to select that. I'm going to click the payment processing window, and it brings up an option here to process the refund. I'm going to click Continue and then Process. I received my approval. I'm going to close, and I'm going to post my transaction. This now appears as a credit balance on the customer's account, and I'll be able to apply this to the outstanding invoice when I process the credit memo or an adjustment on that customer's account. SuccessWare 21 also allows you to process pre-authorizations against a credit card. What this will do is actually put a hold on the amount that you identify on that customer's credit card, and then you can charge that amount at a later point or release the pre-authorization. Pre-authorizations generally will expire after a few days. That'll depend upon your merchant and how long they'll hold that pre-authorization for. To process a pre-authorization, I'm going to open up the job form for my customer. And I've got a replacement job here, and this might be at a point where I'm creating the job itself. I'm going to click Edit, then go to Billing Information. Now here, I'm going to hit the Payment Method dropdown, and I already have a captured alias on this customer's account. If I didn't, I would select my payment method and then click the Payment Processing button. Here, I'm just selecting the existing alias and doing the same thing. Now, to create a pre-authorization, we're going to click the button here, the link that says Authorize Credit Card. We'll identify our authorization amount and then choose to authorize. If that amount is available on the card, the authorization will appear in this grid, and I'll be able to use it at a later point. In this case, I've already built the invoice for this job, and I'm going to apply the pre-authorized amount and process it for transaction right from the invoice form. I'm going to go to Apply Payment, put in my amount, and then click the Payment Processing button. Now, when I click Continue, which is where I'd normally go to process the payment, I'm going to be taken to a screen that shows Open Pre-Authorizations. And because this pre-authorization was already created for this job, the system assumes that I want to capture payment against this pre-authorization. If the amount of the pre-authorization was less than the amount that you're trying to charge, the system will offer you the option to cancel the pre-authorization and then create a new processed credit card transaction. If the amount of the pre-authorization is less than the amount that you're charging now, the transaction will just go through and the remaining amount will be released. So let's process. Got our approval. We can close our payment window and then post the invoice when I'm done. Well, credit card pre-authorizations will expire naturally after perhaps 5 days or so. It's not a bad idea if you're not planning to use the authorized amount to release it so that that space is freed up on your customer's credit card. To do so, any of the screens that you can use to record a pre-authorization will allow you to release it. I'm going to go to a job form here. I'm going to edit. Go to the billing info for the customer and click on the payment processing button. I'm going to go through the same steps here that I would to create an authorization. I'm going to click Authorize Card, and we'll see any existing authorizations that appear on the customer's account. To release it, right-click on it and choose Release Authorization. This tells me it's going to remove the hold amount, and it's gone. One of the nice benefits of the XCharge integration in SuccessWare 21 is the ability to process a batch of periodic recurring invoices for maintenance agreements. And there's really 3 different ways that you can do this. You can set up the agreement with a credit card associated with it, or an ACH account associated with it, a bank account, and then you can choose to process those transactions from the agreement manager in batch as you wish. So basically create the invoices on a specific date, process the payments. You also have the ability to take a maintenance agreement that's been set up with a credit card and periodic billing, and then schedule those payments to happen offline on a specific date. Then you'll just be able to import the payment reconciliation into SuccessWare. Let's take a look at how to set them up. The agreement that you set up is going to have to be periodically billed, and then you're going to identify the frequency of the payments that you take, and then enter a billing date for the agreement. So when do the billings start? Be aware that you can only set up recurring billings that are going to process through XCharge automatically through the 28th of the month. 29th, 30th, 31st aren't always part of a month, so the system wouldn't know what to do with those. So we limit you to 1st through the 28th for those automatic recurring billings. Once you've set up your recurrence pattern and your dollar amount that you're going to charge, choose the payment method. In this case, I already have a Visa on file for this customer, so I'm just going to select it. And if I only want to set this up that I'm billing every month and I'm going to run it myself, then I'm done. I'm going to save the agreement. I'm going to activate it. If I wanted to set this up with an ACH, hit the drop down, choose Other, choose ACH. And again, I'm going to put my account number in and my routing number. And again, I'm going to save, and each month I'll have the ability to process this periodic billing with this ACH information. If you've set up an agreement with a credit card associated with it, you'll have the ability to set it up with recurring automated payments. To do so, in the agreement form, click the Recurring button. It's going to show you the recurring amount, an end date, and I've set mine up as perpetual, so there is no end date, and a date that the billings are going to start, and that's coming right from the agreement form. I'm going to click Process, and this is going to go ahead and actually set up the recurrence for me. Now, if need be, I need to come back in here at some point, the customer has canceled the agreement, let's say, you will need to cancel the recurring payment in that situation. So our recurring is set up, and we'll, in a separate lesson, take a look at how we process those monthly billings. When you're ready to process your monthly billings for your maintenance plans, you're going to do so through the Agreement Manager. In the Agreement Manager, you're going to go to the Billings Due view. Now, many folks choose to set up their agreements so that different billings happen on different days of the month, and if that's the case, you can search for just that date range. I'm going to look for the entire month of March. And I'm brought up to a list of all of the maintenance plans that I have set up to process with a monthly billing. Now there's filters up top that let us look at the list based upon the type of payment we're taking and whether or not the agreements are set up as recurring offline payment or they have to be done manually. The first filter here, no recurring payment, is going to limit this list down to only the maintenance plans that are set up where I actually have to process the transactions. If I turn on my recurring filter, these are the billings that I have set up that will run on their own offline on the date specified. What I'm going to do is create my entire list of billings due. To do so, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to create the periodic invoices. When finished, we're taken to the Periodic Invoices view with all invoices created for the date range that I specified. I find it helpful at this point to turn on the Unposted filter. This is only going to show me the invoices that still actually have to be worked on. Now I'm going to use my other filters. First, I want to take a look at only billings of a certain type. I'm going to start with my ACH. Those are electronic funds transfer paid agreements, so I'm going to select that filter. And here are the three billings that I have that process through ACH. Now I'm set up to use XCheck in my installation of SuccessWare. I'm going to right-click in the background of the list and process my payments. Tells me it's going to process the payments for all the listed invoices. And the payments are processed. Now it's important to recognize with ACH transactions that what we've done is simply submitted the check for processing. So it's been submitted successfully, but we don't have a payment that's going to hit our account yet. ACH takes a few days longer. Now I'm still going to post these transactions. I'm going to right-click and I'm going to post these invoices. And they will post as paid. But if one of those ACH transactions comes back that it declined, I'm going to have to go and make an adjustment to that customer's account for that bounced electronic check, if we want to look at it in those terms. I'm going to turn off my EFT filter and turn on my credit card filter. Now within my remaining list, I have a number of transactions. Some of them are automatic recurring and others aren't. So what I want to do is take a look at only those that do not have a recurring payment set up. Now that I've limited the list, I can process these transactions. I'm going to right-click and choose Process Payments. And again, this is going to submit each one of these through XCharge using the alias information that I've captured on the account. When the transaction is complete, we see a list of authorization numbers and a status that shows us that it's been processed. But you can see I have some credit cards here that were declined. Now I'm going to want to handle those. So let's start by just taking care of all of those that have already approved and are processed successfully. So again, I'm going to turn on a filter here that only shows me paid invoices. I'm going to right-click and I'm going to post those invoices. Now when done, the list clears because I have my unposted filter turned on. So let's turn off the paid filter. It's going to bring back these that had the problem. So I need to do something about these. I can clear the payment information off of them and post them with a balance due, send it to the customer as a balance due, or I can go to the invoice. I hit F10 on the invoice, go into the apply payment information, and we have information here that we have a decline. It asks if I'd like to try to rerun the card at this point. I'm going to say no to that. And this cleared the payment information from the account, or at least from this invoice. So what I can do now at this point is I can close, and I can post the invoice without a payment, or I can go record new payment information from the customer. We can grab a different Visa, so maybe I've reached out to them by phone. And I can capture new payment information. And then I'd be ready to process the payment. Now, this is going to fail because of the dollar amount, so I'm not going to do that. These are specially set up to fail. But I will show you that if you've captured new payment information on this particular invoice, again, I'd want to process it. There's a right-click option here. So if the credit card information that I had from the customer was bad, I've reached out to them, I've updated, I can now tell the system to update the agreement itself with this new payment information. So moving forward, all billings associated with this agreement will hit this new card. Okay. Again, I would have processed that and then post the payment. And I would do that for each of these. Now, if you don't want to go into each one of these invoices one at a time and clear their information or update them, you can right-click on the list of declined transactions and choose to clear the declined transaction information. This will allow you to post the invoices without that declined information stopping you. Now, the last set of agreement billings that I have to do are those that I've set up to automatically recur, for those payments to automatically process offline. So let's turn on our recurring filter, and it shows me that these have not been processed. These should have run last night, offline. What I'm going to do is right-click, and I'm going to reconcile my recurring payments. What this is going to do is reach out to XCharge's site, and it's going to pull down a statement of all of the offline processed transactions and match them to the outstanding invoice. It tells me that it found 19 unreconciled invoices, and it has a number of payments because I've got some extras, but I'm going to click Reconcile. Now I get a report here that will show me invoices that still don't have a payment and maybe payments that don't have an invoice. Mine's a little bit of a mess because this is a training database, but it did match the 18 invoices that I have in this list. And each of them has received an approval, or in the case of this single transaction, a decline. I have one more left in the list that won't run until the 28th. So again, for this invoice, I'm going to need to go clear the payment information from it. So I'm going to open the invoice. I'm going to go to the Apply Payment screen. I'm not going to rerun it. I'm just going to clear the payment information and return to my list. My last step, I'm going to post all these invoices. So again, right-click in the background, post all invoices, and all of these paid invoices, and the one that doesn't have a payment on it, are all going to post. Now I had 2 invoices in this list that weren't processed yet as recurring payments, so they didn't post, but the rest of them have been taken care of. To make the process of reconciling your daily batch statement of credit card payments easier, SuccessWare 21 allows you to download your batch reconciliation statement directly from XCharge. In my undeposited funds account, I have listed all of my transactions that I processed yesterday. Now, a couple of these were ACH, and those are not going to reconcile as part of this process. As a matter of fact, I generally won't know if an ACH transaction actually deposited to my account for a few days. So I'm going to remove those from the list for right now by using a filter. I'm going to turn on my credit card filter, and that's going to limit me to just seeing the credit card transactions. Now I've looked online at my batch statement for yesterday and see that my total transactions were 48, 95, 67, and I've entered that as my total other. Now to download the batch statement, I'm going to right-click and choose Reconcile Settled Transactions. Now it'll give you a date of the oldest item in your account. This item had a date of 3/15, but I actually processed it yesterday, the 26th. I'm going to leave that just to show you what comes up. It's going to show me a list of all of the batches that are available from that date, and there'll be a check mark here that indicates to me whether I've already reconciled that particular statement. Now I'm just going to grab the one from yesterday. I'm going to click it and hit OK. Now in this, it's telling me that I have 9 transactions in XCharge that couldn't be matched to an item in my account. Now these might be offline processed transactions, not done through SuccessWare, but as part of your account. I would want to pull up that exception report, print it, take a look at it, make sure I understand what these transactions are and whether or not they should be in SuccessWare. Once I've closed that, the statement has been downloaded, and you'll notice that each of the items in my account have been checkmarked. The total of those checkmarked items matches the balance that I saw in my batch statement in my portal. So I'm good to go. I'm in balance. I do have an item here that was a reversal. I am going to clear that as part of the activity as well. It won't affect the balance, but it'll get it out of current activity. This makes the process really simple. All I have to do is move to the next screen and finish. And my posting is complete. I'm ready to actually create my bank deposit at this point.